There's an airport in North America where you can fly to Shanghai, Abu Dhabi, London, Tokyo, and 180 other destinations across 6 continents, where more than 50 airlines operate, where a brand new $3 billion rebuild is underway to handle 65 million passengers a year. It's not in New York. It's not in Los Angeles. It's not Chicago, Atlanta, or Miami. It's in Canada. Toronto Pearson International Airport has quietly become the second most important international gateway in all of North America, behind only New York's JFK. It moves more international passengers than Miami, more than Chicago O'Hare, more than any airport in Canada by a margin of 20 million people. And here's the part that should worry every major US airport. Toronto has one advantage none of them have. You can clear US customs and immigration before you even board your flight, walking into any American airport as a domestic arrival. While America's biggest airports are frozen by capacity caps, weather delays, and political friction, Toronto is quietly capturing the international connecting traffic they're losing. This is the story of how a Canadian airport became North America's global gateway, while nobody in the United States was paying attention.
Let me give you the number that frames everything. 30.4 million. That's how many international passengers flew through Toronto Pearson in 2024. To put that in perspective, only one airport in all of North America handled more international travelers, and that's New York JFK at about 35 million. Toronto beat Miami, Toronto beat Chicago O'Hare, Toronto beat Los Angeles. Every major American international gateway except one, Toronto, is bigger. And it did this while handling just 47 million total passengers. Compare that to Atlanta's 108 million or O'Hare's 84 million. Toronto is a fraction of their total size. But when it comes to the international game, the high-value, long-haul, globally connected flying that actually matters for a global gateway, Toronto is number 2 on the entire continent. That's the counterintuitive part. Toronto isn't trying to be the biggest airport in North America. It's trying to be the most internationally connected. And it's winning that race while the giant American hubs fight over domestic passengers. Once you understand why, the whole picture changes.
Here's why this matters more than most people realize. For decades, if you were flying from the American Midwest to Europe or Asia, you connected through Chicago or New York or Detroit. Those were the gateways. The American hubs owned the connecting traffic. That's changing, and Toronto is the reason. Toronto Pearson is Air Canada's global fortress. The airline runs about 51% of all seats there and flies to 156 destinations in 53 countries. It's the primary hub for a Star Alliance founding member. It has US border preclearance, and it's positioned perfectly to steal connecting passengers from every constrained American airport. The financial stakes are enormous. The airport already generates nearly $20 billion in direct economic activity. The Greater Toronto Area is the fastest-growing metro in North America, driven by massive immigration. Nearly half of Toronto's population is foreign-born, which creates a permanent, guaranteed demand for international flights to visit family across the entire world. That diaspora demand is something no American airport can manufacture. It's structural, it's permanent, and it feeds Toronto's international network year after year. The single biggest advantage Toronto has is something most travelers don't even think about: US border preclearance. Here's how it works. When you fly from Toronto to the United States, you clear American Customs and Immigration inside Toronto Pearson before you board the plane. When you land in the US, you walk off as a domestic passenger. No customs line, no immigration hall, nothing. Toronto has had this since 1952. It was actually the first airport in the world to get US preclearance after a request from American Airlines. Why does this matter so much? Because it unlocks access to more than 160 US airports that have no international arrivals facilities at all. Small and mid-sized American cities that can't handle international flights directly, you can fly them through Toronto, clear US customs in Canada, and arrive as if it were a domestic trip. No US airport has this. They can't. It's a capability that only exists at Canadian and a handful of other foreign airports. It makes Toronto uniquely powerful as a connecting point for US-bound international traffic. Think about what that means strategically. A passenger from Europe heading to Cleveland or Columbus or Nashville can fly through Toronto, clear US customs in Canada, and arrive as if it were a domestic trip. No US airport has that.
But a pre-clearance advantage means nothing without the flights to use it. And this is where Toronto's 2026 expansion becomes the real story. In 2026, Toronto Pearson is adding one of the biggest waves of long-haul routes in its history. Air Canada resumed non-stop service to Shanghai on June 3, 2026, its first flight to China since January 2020, 4 times a week, year-round, on a Boeing 787. They brought back mainline service to Budapest, one of only 2 non-stop links between North America and Hungary. They increased Prague to 4 times a week. They added the Azores. They're expanding across Europe, Asia, and Latin America simultaneously. Then there's the Etihad A380. In June 2025, Etihad put its 486-seat Airbus A380, the largest passenger plane in the world, on a daily route between Abu Dhabi and Toronto. Here's the detail that matters. That exact A380 was pulled off Etihad's New York JFK route, which ended the day before the Toronto service began. A premium international aircraft was moved from a major US airport to Toronto. Toronto now accounts for nearly 60% of all of Canada's air travel capacity to the United Arab Emirates. WestJet is adding European routes and its first South American non-stop. Porter Airlines is exploding with brand new jets. Royal Air Morocco, Virgin Atlantic, and Air China all started or expanded service in 2025. This is the pattern. While US airports are cutting international routes, Toronto is adding them. The global carriers are voting with their aircraft, and they're choosing Toronto. None of this expansion works without the infrastructure to handle it. So Toronto is spending big. In May 2026, Toronto Pearson broke ground on something called Pearson Lift, a multi-billion-dollar rebuild that starts with a $3 billion first phase. That first phase alone rebuilds a 2.2 million square meter airfield, an area equivalent to more than 1,000 hockey rinks, new high-speed taxiways, 20,000 smart LED airfield lights, an intelligent airfield management system, 30 kilometers of new baggage belts capable of sorting 100,000 bags a day. The airfield work alone supports 28,000 additional passengers per day. But that's just phase 1. The full lift program includes terminal revitalization and a brand new terminal expansion. The target is 65 million passengers a year by the early 2030s, up from 47 million today. The CEO, Deborah Flint, called the groundbreaking a pivotal moment, building one of the most efficient and digitally advanced airports in the industry. This is a decade-long bet, and it's happening at exactly the moment America's biggest airports are hitting their limits. Because here's the other half of the story. Toronto is rising precisely as its biggest US rivals are stuck. Chicago O'Hare, the most connected airport in North America, is frozen. In May 2026, the FAA capped O'Hare at 2,708 flights per day and extended that cap all the way through October 2027. The reason was chaos. United and American had scheduled so many flights the airport couldn't handle them. Fewer than 60% of flights were leaving on time. O'Hare is also the most weather-delayed major airport in America. More weather delays than any other US hub. When you can't grow and you can't stay on time, connecting passengers start looking for alternatives. New York JFK is slot constrained. There's simply no room to add flights. Detroit's Asia Gateway is a single airline Delta operation, not a broad global hub. And then there's the political factor. US-Canada relations have soured. Cross-border travel has collapsed. Canadian trips to the US fell more than 25% in 2025. Air Canada responded by cutting US transborder capacity 8% and redeploying those exact planes to Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Think about what that means. The political friction that hurt cross-border travel actually accelerated Toronto's international pivot. Every plane Air Canada pulled off a US route got redeployed to a global route through Toronto. The constraints crushing American hubs are the exact tailwinds lifting Toronto. Before I wrap, the honest version. Toronto is not the biggest airport in North America. Not close. Atlanta moves more than twice as many passengers. O'Hare, LAX, and JFK are all bigger by total volume. When we say Toronto is becoming the most important, we mean specifically as an international gateway, not as an overall airport. And even the connectivity crown is contested. By some rankings, Chicago O'Hare is still the most connected airport in North America by total connections. Toronto's claim is strongest on international passenger volume, where it's a clear number 2 behind JFK. Toronto also has real problems. Its passenger satisfaction scores are poor, near the bottom of major North American airports in recent surveys. Its growth in 2025 was modest, just 1%, and it's still below its 2019 peak. Air Canada's new Boeing 787-10s have been delayed, and if US-Canada relations normalize, some of that transborder traffic could return and slow the international pivot. So this isn't a story about Toronto dominating North America. It's a story about Toronto quietly winning one specific, incredibly valuable game, the global gateway game, while the American giants are distracted fighting over domestic capacity.
For decades, the map of North American aviation was simple. The big American hubs, Chicago, New York, Atlanta, LA, controlled the connections to the world. Toronto was a regional Canadian airport that nobody outside Canada thought much about. That map is being redrawn. Toronto has the pre-clearance advantage no American airport can copy. It has Air Canada building a global fortress. It has a $3 billion rebuild underway. It has 180 destinations and 50 airlines. And it's capturing the international traffic that constrained, weather-delayed, capacity-capped American hubs are losing. By the early 2030s, if the plan holds, Toronto Pearson will handle 65 million passengers, most of the growth coming from international routes. It will be the airport global carriers choose as their North American gateway. And it will have done it quietly, one route at a time, while the biggest airports in the United States were too busy fighting each other to notice. If you want more of these, the airport stories nobody else is covering, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next gate.